Hey there, it's me, Mrs. Boots, and this is English Language Arts 9B. And today we're starting a poetry unit. Okay, poetry. When I introduce poetry to students, I either get one of two reactions: great excitement or despair. But I hope right now that you're not cringing at the idea of poetry because I know the truth. And the truth is, you like poetry. You know you do. Do you know how I know this? I know this because all of you like music, and music is poetic. Whenever you're singing along or rapping along to your favorite song, you're performing poetry. So if you're feeling dread, don't, because I know you like poetry. You've been listening to poetry your whole life if you've been listening to music and singing music. Now, before we do too much though, poetry is big, and I want you to think about what exactly poetry is and what that means to you. Everyone's got a different view on poetry, and that maybe some people think poetry needs to rhyme, or it needs to be a certain length, or it needs to be about certain topics. And there's also no one way to approach reading or writing, but we're going to try to start on the same page for this class, anyways, by first thinking about what we think poetry is. And the first poem I'm going to present to you is by an author named Billy Collins, and it's called Introduction to Poetry, which I think makes sense since, we're just starting poetry, so what better poem to begin with? Collins is a great writer who loves to share his perspectives and processes. And for him, he says that poetry is the only full history we have of the human heart. He also says that poetry has several pleasures: the joys of dance, because poetry has rhythm; the joy of sound, because poetry uses words; the joy of travel, and that's the use of words to transport us to different places; and the joy of metaphor connection, which gives us surprises and new perspectives. And we're going to touch on many of these things in the next couple of weeks. Because we don't have a lot of time for this unit, we'll jump into some of the basic things about poetry, such as poetic devices, elements, and structures. And you'll have a chance to read a few pieces of poetry and practice creating your own poetry. So the first things that you'll need to do for this week are the following. You're going to fill out the Google form titled Poetry Unit Anticipation Survey so I can get a sense of how you feel about poetry. Then you're going to watch the Flowcabulary video about what is poetry. And then you're going to read the poem Introduction to Poetry by Billy Collins and respond to the question assignment that I will post in Google Classroom. You can also listen to this poem being read. I will post a video of it being read if you'd like to read along and actually hear the poetry. I'd like you to do this by the end of the day, which would be Monday, May 25th, so that tomorrow, when we meet live, we'll do some follow-up discussion, and then I'm going to give you your first super duper easy poetry assignment. That's it for this video. Remember, if you ever have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, ask me a question on Google Classroom, or show up for my office hours. I'm always happy to help. Have a great day.